Hi everyone. So has anybody listened to the recent episode of the Autistic Culture podcast? I think it's like number 115. They they got their hands on Susan from Meet My Autistic Brain. Oh my god, she's the one that like I love her voice. It's like a grandma voice and I like her episodes because she just explains things that's easy for me to understand. Um, but I have had questions about her for years because I know she didn't disclose a lot because she didn't really want people knowing that she was autistic. Because you probably heard the episode. I just think it's fucking cool that like they got to interview her, that she agreed to it, and that she shared shit about herself. It was so great, and her laugh is so cute. So I don't know. It really was nice for my brain to listen to that and to learn more about her. So, and if you're not listening to either of these podcasts, who are you? Anyways, I just got on here for what I think is going to be a quick episode, but that remains to be seen. Just some things that I've either just found out about the way that I process things or that I've known about. Um, I don't care to deal with like terms in this episode. Like I know the terms, some of them I don't know. I don't feel like looking up like terms. So, that's for you to do unless you already know them, then don't worry about it. Um, because my brain can't think that hard today. But and if you hear some thank you. Phil is very like sorry, if you hear like any noises or movements, it's Phil because he's been trying to tell me that he wants to eat and I keep redirecting him to the bowls of hard food that are out for them for the in between feedings. So like that's also food they can eat. It's like these cats like are just obsessed with the soft food and they forget that hard food is edible. And I've seen them all eat it, so they all like it. I don't know why I just complained. Um I do because I'm annoyed a little bit, but you're just gonna have to wait there, Tootsie. Go eat some hard food. Okay, so anyways, so for the first time yesterday, I told someone via email that long emails overwhelm me and that I usually need a couple of days to process them, depending on whatever is in them. Um, and I get several of these a week of these longer emails. Um, and I'm not complaining. That's how people communicate, and I'm always down for details. I just take longer to like get through them all. Um, so I said this to this person and I didn't feel judged by them, which was pretty cool. Like I admitted, because I just feel like sharing anything about myself. It's just embarrassing. Like, when will I get over this feeling? Like maybe, hopefully, in the next decade if I get to live that long. But the way things are going, not sure about that. But anyways, it was such a nice feeling to be honest about something that I am embarrassed about, but that I also rationally know that it's nothing to be embarrassed about. Like I know this. It's so hard to balance like what you know with like how you feel because they're always at war, it feels like inside me at least. Um and I think this was a step in unlearning that embarrassment, which might be tinged with shame, probably is. So I've got some digging in to do about that stuff. But I haven't told people how I process information because it doesn't usually come up, or I have this thought of like, they're going to think I'm lying or making excuses or whatever, when that's never the case. Um, But anyways, whenever I see a long email, like as soon as I open it, immediate overwhelm. And I'm not bashing on anybody that sends me long emails at all. This is just how I feel when I receive them, but I do find them valuable, like, because there's lots of details in there that I need. I just can't read the entire email in one sitting. Um, even if I have the time to do so, like I can only get through like maybe half of it, and then I have to put it away, and then I'm doing other things, but like in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about that part of the email that I read, and I'm processing whatever it said, however I'm going to respond, any questions that I have, and then I go back and I read the second half, and it's a process, and I've gotten used to it, but I haven't had to explain it to anybody. Or I guess I've chosen not to. Because there is some shame there. Um, but I'll tell you, like, whether or not this person judged me, like, inside their head, and I just didn't, they didn't communicate it on email. Whatever, I still didn't feel judged, and I really appreciate that because it's pretty, like, scary sharing some things. For me, I'll say, because a good portion of my life was just I share something and it's a variety of reactions, but it's all the bad ones, like, oh, I overshared, or oh, they didn't need this much detail, or whatever the fuck the case is. And so, like, you just kind of get in the habit of not volunteering information about yourself because it gets used against you in some way. And I am trying to break free from that mindset because I'm older, I've learned more. I know that like people can be trusted. It's just this unlearning process. Like, when will this fucking end, man? Um, but anyways, that was a good experience. Not being judged. And then I got to thinking about how I consume and process information in general, which I'm sure I've touched on over the years of doing this podcast. But like back in the day, I mean, I think I have. So this is just in case I haven't, or for those who were like, bitch, I am not listening to those earlier episodes. Oh, by the way, this is like a tangent, but I just reminded myself of it, or somehow something reminded me. Um, I'm learning recently that people see autistic Ange, A-N-G, and they pronounce it Ang. Did I say this before? I think I probably did. Well, there's still people doing it. It's autistic Ange, as in Angela. I don't know who this Ang fella is. I forgot what movie that character came from, but um, man, it's just so cringy to think that so many people see autistic Ange and they read it as autistic Ang. Like, what the fuck? It sounds so fucking weird, but so it's Ange. Okay, gonna move on. So, anyways, getting back to what I was talking about, back in the day, before there was a handy dandy internet, for those of you who were born like after the internet, um, I can't imagine like what I don't know. That's so weird to me because I just remember how life was before the internet, and like it kind of was better in a lot of ways. Like people's shit wasn't blasted all over the internet. Like, yeah, there was pros and cons about not having it, pros and cons with having it. But I consumed my information just like any other undiagnosed, unidentified, undiscovered autistic kid did. And that was encyclopedias. We had a whole collection of them, A to Z, and I ate those motherfucking things up. That's also like a large part of like why Greek mythology and Roman mythology became like one of my special interests because there was so much about it in those encyclopedias. So I was looking up like the different gods and goddesses and what the names mean and like the history. It was just like I couldn't get enough of encyclopedias. Um, do those even get made anymore? Like, I'm saying it out loud and talking about them, but it's so strange, like picturing that, like, each book was so thick. Like, if anybody's ever had encyclopedias, like, so big, so much information, and I devoured that shit. I loved it. I can't believe that, like, we all don't use those anymore. But anyways, so I went through encyclopedias to learn about things. Um, and it was a special interest. So I would sit with those books for hours upon hours, and just read because I can read fairly quickly. And I did more reading than talking in my earlier years of life. Um, I would read whatever fucking smut book my mother had laying around. You know those things? Like, are they still called smut books? I'm not judging people who read them. I did judge her back in the day because I remember like I would sit there and spend hours learning about shit from an encyclopedia. And then all around the house, the only thing I ever saw of hers that she read were these like horny romance books with like a man on the front of the cover holding a woman so delicately, or like the guy has long Fabio hair and he's on a horse and he's reaching down to pick up his little mistress, this dainty little thing, and help her up into his like strong arms. Like, that's all this bitch read. And I used to think to myself, like, does she not know anything? Like, how does she get her information? Like, is all she learned in school all she learned? Like, I just remember having these thoughts when I was a kid. But I still read those books because they taught me about sex, because they taught me more about sex than my mother and or father fucking did. Um, Not that like well, no, I was reading those to learn about sex, basically. I had no desire to like let me go experiment and see what sex is like. I remember feeling like fascinated, like, and also grossed out at the same time because I'm like, ugh, like, does somebody really need somebody else to help them out with like getting off? Like, can't they just do it themselves? Like, why does there have to be whole books devoted to this bullshit? I know now why, but it's just weird. But I read that shit too. And as soon as when I moved out and I joined the military, I never fucking touched another one again. Ever. I just pivoted real hard to true crime. And that was another special interest for many a year. But anyways, so there was those newspapers. Growing up, all I had access to was like the military newspaper. If there were other newspapers available for delivery or purchase, my parents did not read any of those. So you just get this like, God, I forgot what the name was. Stars and Stripes. I think it's still called that. That was the name of the newspaper, and I just remember like this shit's fucking boring. Like, it tells me nothing about what's going on in the world, even less about what's going on in Japan, because like that's where I spent the majority of my upbringing, and it just has a bunch of like um activities and schedules and things to bring the family to, and I just was like, this is why did you make this thing that seems stupid? It probably wasn't, but I thought it was. And the library, I loved the library in school. um I don't think I ever went to the public library that I can remember, but I went to the school's library a lot. This was like years ago, way before book banning and book burning was a thing. I had any book at my disposal, and I was just, oh man, I was just so happy in that library. And looking back, there were other people just like me in that library. There weren't many of us, but that was our safe space, and we didn't even really know it. Um, and then, whatever I got taught in school that seemed worth my while, like math was not worth my while, science was not worth my while. Um, uh, I guess only English class I really cared about, I guess, because you got to read and stuff. And you got to like pick apart books and like dissect them, and that's what I liked doing. So I did learn some of that stuff in school. But like mainly what I learned in school is like what kind of a person I didn't want to be. Because there was a bunch of fucking bullies and assholes. But that's another episode. Um, and then so like you get older, I got older, then I turned to reading a bunch of articles and studies online, like when the internet was a thing. I was on the internet a lot, looking up all kinds of stuff. Like, I bet you, like, most of us were, because what a great way to get information anytime you want at your fingertips. It's just wonderful. Of course, these days you have to weed through bullshit to find real shit, but still, it's out there. Um, so that's all I started doing. I started leaving like the library behind me and I just lived on the internet reading shit. And now, these days, it's audiobooks because I don't know what happens. Like, I just, maybe I don't have as much time as I would like, or I don't feel like I have, like, it's hard for me to just relax. Like I feel like I want, not need to necessarily, I want to always be doing something because I have a hard time just like sitting here and holding a book and reading just that book for like however long, or like watching a show and not doing anything else. I can't do stuff like that. So I listen to audiobooks. That's where I get a lot of my information, especially about people. Um, any like audio that anybody offers up for long articles, like on Substack and stuff, like whenever that's available, I choose that option because um, when I read long articles, like, I do read them. If there's no audio option, I do read them. I read very quickly because when you're nonverbal until 3, um, and you've already taught yourself how to read, like, I mean, oh my God, like, I can speed read like you wouldn't believe. Um, but then, like, what's weird about that is with as fast as I can read, I'm usually unable to leave an actual comment in the comment section about the article. And instead, I just do the, you know, how you like something? Like you click that little button. I click that because anybody that writes something decent, um, which is everybody that I've read so far, deserves a like on their article. They took the time to put that together. I always feel bad when I can't leave comments, and it's really a can't. Like my mind is just still in processing mode of what I just read. I have no idea like how I want to respond to it, what I want to say. There's like millions of thoughts going through my mind, and just the idea of like trying to work them out into a comment after I spent like that amount of time reading a long ass article. I can't do it. Um, and you know, like no offense to anybody that writes long articles, there's lots of people like those. I've recently realized I'm not one of them. I have never been one of them. I write short form because it's all my brain can do. And I consume short form much better when it's just to the point and you know what I mean? So like I do these public journals. I still have yet to release that one I talked about. I'm plugging away at it. It's slow going, but you know, it's headed to the end. But like with my journals, that's why I do those because I can't sit down and write an entire actual book. I can't do a memoir. I don't have the brain power for that. I don't have the patience. My memory and my brain fog these days is just also not that great. So there's good chances I'll forget like did I write about this? Did I not write about this? There's too much back and forth with like editors and proofreaders and like no. I can't. I just can't do it. It's so frustrating. Um, and I thought that people wouldn't like that. They wouldn't care too much for it. Um, but turns out, like I guess people don't mind short stuff. Um, like me. Uh-oh, I think my brain's starting to like fritz out. Oh man. But anyways, I used to judge myself up until like an hour ago about like all I can ever write is like short pieces of stuff. I tried longer pieces in the earlier days of me doing like a Substack and I just was like this is not fun for me. I don't like it. But I thought that's how you were supposed to write. And then I was like, "Oh," and then I figured out like uh do you know what I'm trying to say? Oh man, how I wish I could edit audio. But not really cuz that sounds boring. But anyways, I hope you know what I'm trying to say. Like I used to beat myself up over like I can only do like 300 words right now, but I feel like they're a decent 300 words, and I thought that people would like read that and be like, that's all she's got. That's it. And then I'm finding out that like people actually don't mind the shorter stuff as long as like you get to the point, you make it worth people's time. And like it really should be about and for other people. That's just my opinion. Um like I don't write for myself. I write for well, it helps me process things too, but like you know what I mean? I like to write for other people because there should be more of that. I don't know. That's not even part of this episode. I just started talking about random shit. So I should probably end this. Oh, I'm at 20 minutes. Does that count as a short episode? Probably not. Okay. Well, considering not publishing this, and I'm just going to do it cuz 20 minutes I'll never get back if I don't publish this. But is there anybody out there that consumes stuff this way or produces it in this manner, just short to the point because you have a hard time processing longer things? And also, I don't know how the fuck those of us who are like this, how did we get through school? How did I graduate college? How? If I went to college now with my 41-year-old brain, I wouldn't last a semester probably. That's just being honest. Like I must have had the brain power back in the day because everything was so long and time consuming and papers had to be long. Um and I guess like I was operating better, but I was also unaware. Like I did not have awareness really about myself. Um what was I saying? Ah, shit. Oh, so like I was raised to learn that you suck it up and then you push through whatever the thing is. You don't complain about it. You just do it. And I was taught that like if you can't do something, you're kind of useless. I don't believe that anymore, but that's what I did believe for the longest time. So like maybe that's how I got through college and just doing all the long fucking draining homework and papers and fuck that. I never want to do it ever again. Um okay, I'm just going to stop talking cuz it seems like I'm spiraling. But anyways, thank you very much for listening and if you would like an example of if anybody's not I'm not trying to, whore myself out for like Substack subscribers, but you could take a peek, see if like, some of my stuff might resonate with you if you don't already, or if you don't want to. Um if you go to my list that shows the Substacks I subscribe to, like the newsletters, go like take a look at those. I would say 99% of like what I read is uh autism or ADHD stuff. Such a special interest of mine. I don't really read a whole lot of other things, unless it's something that like will help me in some way. I don't know. I guess that's why you read, right? They're supposed to. Okay, well, I'm not going to debate with myself here, and I don't want to lose anybody. So thank you very much for listening, and please let me know if you're somebody that struggles with the long stuff and prefers just shorter chunks of information. And okay, thank you. Goodbye.